So it looks like we're in a very strange place right now when it comes to the Paris Olympics, which is they're coming up shortly, and you have your Olympics coverage coming to you from NBC, and they're going to do their absolute level best to try to give you the best possible show, which includes some unusual hosts that we probably haven't seen in this kind of a position before. But on top of that, there are some other issues to deal with when it comes to the Olympics, and that comes down to security in Paris, which I think is paramount. So we will talk about that in just a moment with our good friend here, the guy that I think knows a little bit about everything. His name is Jonas J Campbell. Greetings, sir. How are you today?
So good to be here, and I do know very little
Oh, well,
about everything.
fantastic. Well, I think you know quite a bit about all types of things, but I do appreciate you being here. And I do want to talk about this. And again, I put the thumbnail the way it is to say Olympic panic because there's a lot of panic going on right now. NBC doesn't know how to handle this. They don't know how to appeal to a bunch of generations, right? And they've kind of alienated people when it comes to this sport coverage because of the politics and things. On top of that, Paris has been a powder keg right now, and they have been in France for quite some time because they've brought in a population of people that don't like them, and they've allowed them to live there, which is not a good situation. And you're starting to see these types of things have consequences. So let's jump right into the coverage because this is the media part of the conversation. So the Olympics overhaul. NBC's bets on Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg, Jonas.
I didn't know this headline was coming.
Yes, I hid it from you. Peacock and wild ideas to ensure the 2024 Paris Games are a ratings bonanza. Well, based on the last Olympics that NBC had on their air and on Peacock, they didn't bonanza the ratings very much, except for Peacock. So I don't know what they're referring to, but let's read on into this story and see if we can figure it out. Thank you, Brian Steinberg, for writing this article and giving us this lovely information. We have Peyton Manning, Snoop Dogg, Kelly Clarkson, Mike Tirico, who does good coverage, and Jimmy Fallon. What do they all have in common, Jonas?
Peyton Manning is a talented football player, and
Yes.
Snoop Dogg is a well-known rapper.
Yeah.
Kelly Clarkson's a singer, and Jimmy Fallon, he's going to be a laugh. He's going to be probably a kind of a continuous giggle, maybe.
Maybe if you're into milk toast humor, but Mike Tirico's the only sports person that's represented in this thing. But what they all have in common, and this is not a joke, at least not for the leaders of NBC Universal and a small army of NBC sports producers. Well, the answer is the Paris Olympics, which will be telecast in the U.S. with markedly different approach this summer. Yeah, because winter didn't work out well for them. Primetime coverage will be aimed at a much broader crowd than it has in recent Olympic Games. Why? Well, because they've been losing their audience to politics and divisive stuff on top of, demographic shifts. But NBC Universal has a 9-figure commitment that is forcing the company to shore up its investment by proving that the Olympics is still a cultural juggernaut. Now, let me ask you this question, Jonas. Is the Olympics a cultural juggernaut?
I don't know if I'm more qualified to say this or less qualified to say this because I am not a sports fan. I've never really been a fan of the Olympics. I'm more of a world-class track meet kind of guy here. I'd rather get out the old power pad than watch the Olympics myself. But I don't think that the Olympics is a cultural juggernaut. I think that even in the 90s, it was starting to wane, and here we are at the bottom of most of this. Most of the news that comes out of the Olympics is around the drama surrounding maybe some of the players misbehaving when they're not participating in their events. I seem to remember Ryan Lochte having some issues a few years back, and other than that, I couldn't tell you who got the most medals or what country was well represented or anything like that from the Olympics.
Well, I have to agree with you, especially since the most interesting thing was the number of calories that Michael Phelps was eating in order to swim the way he did. I mean, those are the stories that they've been leaning into for a long time. They're giving you the backgrounds of the people. They're selling the people in the Olympics and not necessarily the sports. Because, I mean, frankly, how many times a year do you tune into a track meet? You don't. You go and play one on your running pad or whatnot for your video game thing. At least that's what I'm assuming. Jonas, are you?
Oh,
Yeah,
yes. Well,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
been a little while since I've got the power pad out, and I always lose when I end up facing Cheetah. He's the fastest one that I just am never capable of beating him. I usually get on the ground and do the ground pound on the foot pads there to try to cheat. But that I think is more interesting than the Olympics themselves. And Bob Iger made his stamp. That guy over at the Walt Disney Company, he made his stamp over at ABC doing Olympic coverage and trying to create those narratives around the Olympics. But right now, if the Olympics are supposed to be a symbol of unity and friendly competition between the nations, I think we are disunified even as a nation, let alone with other nations. At the moment, there's so many tensions that are so high. If this achieved what it wanted to achieve, it would be a great statement on the state of the world. But I don't think it's going to achieve that. I don't think we're all going to forget our differences just so that they can sell us some ads here in the breaks between the events. Just don't see it happening.
Well, and you're going to see politics on display in the Olympics in a lot of different ways, a variety of ways. And you're going to probably get, protests there in that country of, just stop oil. You're going to get conversations that will be uncomfortable between somebody like Kelly Clarkson and Snoop Dogg. And there's going to be a lot of strange things that are going to go into this if they're going to lean this hard into our, I guess, cultural representation and those people that they pick to be co-hosts. I don't know. But I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, that their idea of switching it up isn't really going to work. I think they'll alienate more people from the games than they'll bring in because of these new faces.
Yeah, these are standard daytime television hosts, and also Jimmy Fallon. These are people that aren't exactly ratings juggernauts themselves. I don't see why anyone would want to tune in for these specific people. Peyton Manning, okay, he's at least has a long career. He actually has strong appeal in the Midwest. Kelly Clarkson, I've got nothing against her. I just don't see this as something that is really going to bring in Generation Z or Gen Alpha or whatever we're calling those younger generations here. I just don't see this as something that is going to survive as a cultural touchstone for very much longer. It's going to be niche for a little while, if not forever.
Well, I have to ask you a couple other questions because they're also bringing in some quote unquote social media influencers to mix into this. And Snoop
Oh,
Dogg's going
that'll
to,
fix it.
yeah. Snoop Dogg's going to do man on the street observations about the Olympics and all that. They're describing it here, and I'm like, this is going to be a hot mess. And I'm not sure that it's going to work out. This is going to be like so much less professional than I think they even can imagine, and I don't think that that's appealing to people. Also, I have a question, and I don't know the answer to this. Does France allow for the purple sticky punch, the lawn lettuce, the stuff that makes Snoop Dogg go?
I do not know. I know there are other European countries that allow that. I have never looked into that myself for France, but I imagine if anyone's going to get away with it, it would be that libertine, Mr. What is it, Calvin Reynolds, Calvin McDonald. I think there's a Calvin in there somewhere.
Very good. So I don't have high hopes for this. I don't know about you, but what's worse is this is the worst time that you could go to Europe. And why? They got some problems. With France on highest alert, Olympics organizers plan opening ceremony along the scene under unprecedented security protocol because it's so open. So imagine this being the stage upon which all of this is playing out, let's say. I'm very worried. I was worried a year ago when I was calling balls and strikes on this. I was on record at least 2 or 3 times last year saying this is not going to go well. What do you think about that aspect?
Well, the security aspect at the Olympics, I'll be dead serious on this. I think that the Olympics are a prime target for an event like this because it is, like as we stated before, it's supposed to be a symbol of unity. It's supposed to be a symbol of world peace in some way. But that obviously makes it a target for someone who is hoping to fight against that, someone who is hoping to instill fear. So that makes me very nervous and gives me one more reason not to attend a large sporting event in a foreign country with a lot of visitors who may not have the same level of identification as residents.
Yeah, and look, this is going to be one of those times when you're going to see European security to the max. This is when you're going to visibly see in France armed people, not unarmed people. You're going to see a lot of that. And you're going to see the opening ceremony on July 26th, if you so choose. And they're moving forward on this at a time when even the citizenry is throwing a fit in Paris, right? With protests and everything else. So they're saying that they have lots of fallback scenarios. So there are plan Bs and plan Cs. Citing,
If they plan to do security at the Olympics the way they do security at their airports and at the Eiffel Tower, then maybe. But I have a feeling that the Olympic coverage will. They're going to want to keep that security away from the cameras
yes.
because that's not conducive to good television the way that NBC would want it. That would put them in that CBS area or that Paramount action film area because they go around carrying machine guns strapped to them and they make their presence very well known at airports and historic sites. But I don't think that's going to end up on television. If they can strike that balance between having security ever present for the people who are there but not visible on television, okay, maybe, but I worry.
Well, I think they're thinking, by using the scene, that they can get those 10,500 athletes parading around on boats separated from the crowd enough that there won't be a physical interaction at ground level because you're in the middle of water. But all along that pathway, I don't know. Jonas, I'm very nervous about this, and I have been for a while.
Well, of course, there's lots. I've been on that river, and there are lots of bridges on that river. And this is one of the most historic areas of a very historic city, and there are lots of little nooks and crannies in Paris, and I can't imagine them covering all of them.
Right. So they've already reduced the size of the crowd that'll be allowed to see these ceremonies from 600,000 to 300,000. And you've got over 2,000 private security agents. There are 45,000 security forces, as well as all the state services will ensure the waterway and aerial security. But there are more soft targets along the route on the shoreline in the areas that'll be able to get a view of this. I think everybody should be well aware of their surroundings. Let's just say that. But there are more contingency plans being prepared, and notably one that would see opening ceremony confined to the Trocadero area.
Trocadero.
Thank you. I put the R in the wrong place. In the worst case scenario, they would just put it in the National Stadium that's located north of Paris. I have a feeling they're going to start moving these plans about. I have a feeling that they're going to end up in the worst case scenario because any kind of unrest in the city for protest purposes.
Well, and France is well known for being a city that is there's someone is protesting in Paris at all times.
Yeah.
You just have to know where they are and generally avoid them. And it's never really been a fun thing to visit a foreign city and know that there are protests going on in that city. Paris is a beautiful city, and I think even if this sinister element that we're talking about here is unable to do what they might intend to do to these people who are just there to watch a great event. I think the win would be for the pickpockets and anyone there who is hoping to take advantage of the tourists. As you said, so many soft targets in a concentrated, heavily populated area in a very old city with lots of nooks and crannies. I would stay away. And there are so many wonderful landmarks in Paris specifically that the danger is high and the number of targets is even higher.
Well, yeah, because they're adding 3 to 4 million people just for attendance for the Olympics.
Oh my.
It's insane. Well, Jonas, I do appreciate, obviously, you popping in and doing that with me, recording this video. I really do appreciate your insights. Do you have any final words about the Olympic panic? Do you think that this will actually, generate ratings? Do you think it can be a safe event? What's your opinion on any of that?
I got to say, I'm pretty cynical on sports. I don't really track the ratings here and there. Sometimes on the business side, I'll check in on them after the fact. And the Olympics have not really been that impressive over the last few years. Every now and then there'll be a dip. Every now and then there'll be a little bit of a bump, but is it sustainable? I don't know. This is the problem. Every couple of years, we have the Olympics again, and it's just not what it used to be when we had a uniculture that was centered around the same thing, when four stations were trying to cover pretty much the same events. Now we have people not even watching television in general. They're watching streaming services. And streaming services don't seem to be that interested in the Olympics right now. From a rating standpoint, I don't think anything is going to really move the needle here, unless something tragic happens. And if something tragic happens, well, that's awful.
It's terrible, and that's my worst fear. So with that, thank you, Jonas, for joining me. Any of you out there in the audience that would like to weigh in, please do. That's what the comment section down below is for. And if this is the first video that you've stumbled onto with my channel, do go down there and turn that little red subscriber button to gray. I would appreciate it. I'm on my way to 25K. And you can help me do that. Also, of course, you can find Jonas J Campbell and all of the likes of the theme park crew that I hang out with on the regular over there at That Park Place. Say the tagline.
For all the news that should be fun.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day, everybody. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, and until next time, see ya.